Hi, welcome to MediatorPodcast.com, a podcast and video series about mediation, negotiation, and collaboration. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I'm a valuation expert and divorce financial mediator in St. Louis, Missouri. Today, we are with Rosalia Labate, and she's located in New York, and she's a certified divorce financial analyst and certified public accountant. She provides services like financial forensics, divorce finances, business valuations, and quite frankly, we work in a lot of the same spaces.
Good morning, Melissa, and thank you for having me on.
A lot of times, that's what our role is to make this more simple, to be more logical, to make sure that the judge understands logic and not the 100 pages, but a central issue. And I think that that's what you might be missing if you skip out on the business valuation, because we're looking at cash flow. We're looking at, creation of assets. We're looking at logically, does this, like, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, they stole $2 million. I was like, did you have 2 million to start with? Like, we got to start there. Did you ever create, like, the money has to exist for it to be stolen, for there to be some sort of, marital waste. So in those types of situations, I think that we are maybe not being seen as how beneficial we could be in these situations to either settle it or to testify. And these are things that attorneys cannot do. Even financial advisors cannot do. Even CPAs cannot do because they don't have the specific training for business valuation. And so I think there's the difference in the expertise, is that a lot of times I don't know if they can find business valuation experts that testify in court. There's not a lot. Like, you want to talk about a lucrative space to be in, there's not a lot of people that do what we do. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, definitely. I've actually clients will I've seen clients ask their CPAs to do evaluation. And I've seen CPAs sued for malpractice after the fact because they tried to do evaluation and they have no experience whatsoever. So I have most certainly seen that. Yes.
Well, and we have a friend. I probably shouldn't throw her under the bus, but I think it's funny. She's been creating some content around business valuations, and she's a valuation expert too. And she's like, why does everybody just say 5 times EBITDA? Like, is that what the value of is everything? And I'm like, well, actually, if you want just a basic rubric, right? I really think it's more closer to like maybe 3 to 5 times EBITDA or
Right.
cash
Yes.
flow or
Yes.
something. But again, I think that that's what CPAs and business brokers are like, hey, valuations are really easy, right? It's 3 to times 5 cash flow, or what somebody would pay in the open market.
Well, and there are rule of thumbs for industries. However, it's not taking into consideration what's going on with your company. Like, your company can be worth more or less depending upon its particular circumstances. These rules of thumbs are not going to work. I
Well, and the rules of thumb are being used by attorneys, your CPA, your financial planner, and that it's equivalent to Rosalia coming to me and saying, hey, Melissa, we're going to separate, and my business is worth $1. Because if I walk away from it, it's nothing. Now, if that information comes from Rosalia, I'm like, Rosalia, it seems a little biased that you would say that your business is worth nothing, even though you know it as well. Now, if it comes from a third party that says, oh, Rosalia's business is actually worth maybe $1 million or 100,000 or $3, I might trust the $3 compared to Rosalia's $1. But maybe we should talk to them about the concept of working together with one valuation person. And when you're getting court appointed, isn't that kind of similar? Like, what are you doing when you're working together with somebody that may be a little bit different than when you're working on one side?
Yeah, well, There have been several instances where I've worked with partners getting a business divorce. And one partner goes to, they both hire me and I come up with my value. But then one partner goes to a financial advisor, and the financial advisor is telling them that it's worth 3 times EBITDA and your value. And they'll come back to me and say that my value was too low. And so I will need to sit there and explain to them why it's not worth 3 times EBITDA and why it's lower. And those are circumstances, as you know, I just said before, that are particular to that business. Maybe inflation has eaten into their profits because their raw materials cost more. Or maybe COVID had an effect. I mean, I'll never forget there, a year or two into COVID, one partner wanted to buy out the other partner. Well, COVID ate into not only the costs, the gas costs, the expenses, it reduced the revenues in the company. It just permeated every facet of that company. Yet the financial advisor wasn't taking that into consideration. So, the one side is trying to get double what they should actually be receiving. And that's when, yes, we're very important if we're working with both sides or even just one side, because we can get to the negotiating table. And,
And that's, I think, the key. Like when we go, like a lot of times, if you're really utilizing a financial expert, they should be in mediation. They should be prepping you for the negotiations. They should be running best case, worst case scenarios for your side, for the other side, so that we anticipate, like we talk about how this negotiation is more like a chess game, right? Like you're making one move, but you need to know what are your next couple moves based on what they're going to do. And that's how you're kind of going back. It's not that there's one strategy and it works, but when it comes down to that mediation or that settlement meeting or a Zoom conference call, who do you want to answer the questions when everybody has really specific financial questions or valuation questions? You want the valuation person in the room. And if they're not capable of answering those and really answering them with like confidence, then they're going to expose your strategy. So if you go in there as the person and be like, hey, I just really won $1 million. Well, how'd you come up with that? I don't know. He told me once that it was worth $1 million. Okay, that's not going to work. You have to come in with proof. And so we're coming in with proof, but sometimes we don't have to do the whole thing. We can just be like, look, this and that are going to lead you to this value. Is there any other things that we should be aware of? No? Okay, well then that's the value, right? And it's predicated, but it also has to do with income available for child support and maintenance. So if they don't know how those are connected in the business valuation, again, you probably don't have the right person on your team if this is an important issue. If you need somebody to fight for you and it's not even fight, it's to defend the value based on knowledge, you have to have somebody in the room that can talk towards that. And the attorneys will not. They'll stay silent because attorneys will stay silent when they don't know the answer. And for the most part, financially, they don't know the answer. I've worked with the same attorneys on many cases, and they're still like, working capital is really confusing. Or, weighted average cost of capital. Is that the same as working capital? Because they have a lot of the same names. And it's like, hold on, those aren't even in the same sports arenas, right? And so that's where somebody might hear that doesn't know anything. And they're like, yeah, well, yeah, you're right. What? That wasn't the question, right? So I think that that's what you're seeing in some of the situations. But Obviously, we've kind of cleared up that you do need a business valuation if you're going into mediation or litigation.